The Matribox II Pro is the Charizard of the Sonicake multi-effects lineup, boasting a full-color touchscreen to navigate the intuitive interface, a huge back panel of useful I/O, including stereo DI outputs, a suite of effects, amplifiers and capsins, built-in looper and drummer, audio interface capabilities with both desktop and mobile platforms, switching between presets, a mappable expression pedal. All of this combines into an affordable package that is fine. There's some really great stuff here, some kind of not so great stuff, and some downright bad stuff. So grab a snack, get comfortable, hit the subscribe button, and let's dig into this monstrosity of a pedal. So let's start by talking about the hardware. On the surface of the pedal, we've got 6 foot switches. The 2 that are further up the pedal are actually taller, which makes it easy to hit these buttons without accidentally pressing this front row. Really good, thoughtful design there. As I said, this thing has a full-color touchscreen, but you can actually navigate the entire pedal by using these 4 knobs. This one has a little clicky push button. That said, I found the touchscreen on this to be really good, and I only used the knobs when I needed to get ultra precise with things. Definitely good that it has both. We also have these backlit buttons here that allow you to quickly navigate to some commonly used functions like the drummer or to the global settings. You also have this master volume control here, which sits at the very end of everything and controls the volume of the DI out, the 1/4 inch out, and even the headphones. I feel like that is a really nice little touch. Instead of having to navigate into some menu to turn things up, you can just say, all right, well, everything should be dialed in the way it is. Sound engineer wants a little bit more. I'm just gonna give him a little more on the master. Good touch. We've got a ton of ports back here, so let's just go through them all really quick. Left to right, like how America is going lately, we first got an expression/foot switch pedal. This will allow you to connect an external expression pedal or an additional foot switch. I don't think we're really hard up for either of that, and it already has a built-in expression pedal, so that seems a little redundant to me. I think this would be way cooler if it were a second input, and I don't know if that's just not possible or something they could unlock via software, but Sonicake. Second input could be cool. But right next to that, we do have our singular 1/4 inch input, and then our return and send for the effects loop. And via the software, you can put that effects loop anywhere in your preset, and that can change preset to preset, which makes it a lot more useful than a normal effects loop in my opinion. Not that I'm gonna use it either way. Deal with it. Next, we've got the stereo DI out, which is kind of the defining feature of this over the Matribox II Non-Pro edition. The Non-Pro one does not have a DI out at all, and this has 2, which is kind of nice. We also have a ground lift switch and then our stereo 1/4 inch outputs left and right. We've got an aux port if you want to pipe in backing tracks, and then a 1/8 inch headphone jack. And then we also have 1/8 inch MIDI jacks, which I thought was a really weird thing because I didn't even realize you could do that. But the USB-C port next to it will also do MIDI. The USB-C port can also be connected to your computer or your phone as an audio interface, or you can connect it to your computer to use the desktop software to run all the presets and whatnot. As far as I know, the USB-C port won't do power, but you do have a pretty standard 9 volts power supply port here, as well as an on-off power switch. And they do include the 9 volt power supply with the pedal, but it seems like any generic 9 volt power supply will do. With the hardware out of the way, let's jump into the software. For being such a powerful and full-featured device, I actually found the interface to be pretty easy to navigate. I've put other devices on blast for being confusing or unintuitive or having poorly written manuals, and that does not seem to be the case here. With few exceptions, I was able to just jump in and start using it like I thought I could, and only had to consult the manual for a few particular things. Now, the first thing I did when I plugged this unit in was to demo all of the presets, and to my surprise, there were 20 bass-specific ones. This unit is built for both bass and guitar, so it was nice to see that bass didn't feel like just an afterthought. Most of the presets sound pretty decent, but what I think they do a good job of is just showing you what's possible. Going through those presets and changing some of the parameters was a really good demo to me, not just of how all of the effects sound, but how they're all built together and how to switch between them, because that helps me kind of conceptualize how I was going to build my own presets later. Here's a good example. The three knobs below the touchscreen can be programmed to control specific pedals controls. So for example, if you want a quick and easy way to control the drive on an overdrive or the sensitivity on a wah, you can set it to persistently stay with one of those three knobs so that it's just always visible. Depending on which mode you're in, you can use these lower switches to trigger individual effects or switch to completely different presets. The taller switches in the back allow you to switch which mode you're in, whether you're in stomp or preset mode, or you can use them to switch between entire banks of presets. Additionally, we've got some combo buttons that are worth talking about. If you press A and B together, you're going to get a tuner. If you push C and D together, you're going to get the looper. What's neat about the looper is that you could use it for performance purposes, but you can also set the effects to be pre or post. So you could theoretically set it up in such a way that you can have something looping while you adjust settings on your preset, which is kind of neat. We also have a drummer on board with 100 drum patterns. Press the drum button to start and stop the drummer, or hold the drum button down to get into the drummer interface, and from there it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, it was at this point in my exploration of the pedal that I felt like I was in a position to create my own preset from scratch. I basically just wanted to recreate my pedal board as best I could. I've got a video about my pedal board here if you want to check that out, but essentially I've got a little bit of everything to make it pretty adaptable to any situation or any genre that I find myself playing. It's got things like octave and fuzz and wah and synth and compression and just like way more stuff than you would ever need, but it's all there. And it was during the building of this preset that the Matribox started to show me its ugly side. Now, the number of effects that's built into this thing is crazy, but only a fraction of them are specifically for bass. For example, there are 63 amps, but only 5 of them are bass amps. That's really not a huge deal. You can totally pull a Lemmy and use a guitar amp with a bass cabinet, and on the cab front, it's a little bit better. 11 of the 61 cabinets are for bass, and it supports up to 20 user IRs if you want to port your own cabinet in. But here's the catch. We've only got 5 bass amps, and not all of them sound that good. The Mesa Boogie one in particular is really underwhelming. It seems like no matter where you put the knobs, it just sounds terrible. I found that their emulations of the Ampeg SVT and Flip Top were the two best ones, but even them don't sound very Ampeg-y, and they don't respond in a very amp-like way. They're missing a lot of controls that you would expect on an Ampeg amp, and no matter where you put the gain control, it never overdrives the amp. But thankfully, even though I wasn't able to produce convincing overdrive through the amps, the onboard overdrives here are not bad. The couple of bass-specific ones have blends built in and do sound great, albeit not as flexible or as dynamic as I wish they were. I did find the modulation effects to be great, and I found both a chorus and a flanger that I really liked. Wah was a little bit harder though. I prefer an auto wah like the MXR unit that I've got on my board, and the touch wah, which is their only wah like that, is really weird. It does have an explicit bass mode built into it, but I found the controls to be a constant compromise. The sensitivity knob feels like it has sensitivity, attack, and release all built into one control, which makes it hard to dial in the way that I like. I may end up switching to use the expression pedal for my wah needs, which is not something I'm used to, but I am all practiced up since the Flip Wah review if you want to check that out. But none of this was as big of a deal as my biggest disappointment with the effects on the Matribox, and that was the octave pedal. It's bad, guys. Like, unusably bad. It feels like it tracks just fine, but it just does not reliably produce that octave on pitch at all. For me, this feels like a huge blow because octave is one of my favorite and most used effects, and it stacks so cool with all of these other effects, and for this one to just be so bad that I can't use it, really sucks. But the quality of the effects was not my only hang-up. I started to find limits in the amount of customization I was able to do. For example, every switch can be programmed to turn on and off either one pedal or a group of pedals. So for example, you can have it set up to turn on a wah and a modulation pedal at the same time with just one button press. But you only have 4 control groups, so if you have more than 4 effects on your board, you're just out of luck. I find this limit absolutely confounding for a few reasons. Because not only can you program the tap behavior, they also have a hold behavior that you can program. So what I thought I'd be able to do with that is set up 2 different modulation effects, one for tap and one for hold, but without more than 4 control groups, there's just no way to do that. You also have another combo if you press B and C together that is intentionally left empty, and you can program that to control any effects, any of your control groups, or go to a completely different part of the pedal. But again, without more control groups, there's really not a whole lot you can do with it that's useful. I don't know if that's an actual limitation of the hardware of the pedal, or maybe the software just wasn't built that way, maybe it's just an oversight, I don't know, but I hope that that's something that they can patch in later to make it so that you can have more than 4 control groups. I would hope that like up to 8 or 9 would be great. Like, it's possible that I'm just not thinking about things in the right way, but I just want to be able to use this thing in the way that I want to use it, and if I had some more control groups, this thing would open up tremendously from a customization standpoint. And use it I shall! I took this box to a rehearsal last week to sort of as a trial run to see if it would work for my gig that's tomorrow. This is going to be a gig with my band The Heist, playing a bunch of different covers, everything from Bill Withers to Prince to the Eagles to Backstreet Boys to Jet. This is also going to be an ampless gig, so I'm going to be using just the Matribox all by itself, going from that straight to front of house, and then monitoring everything with some wireless IEMs. I feel like this is going to be a fantastic real-world test, not just of the audio fidelity, but of its real-world use. They call it the Matribox II Pro, but we're going to see firsthand just how pro it really is.
If you only knew that you were in my shoes, just keep on cutting me. Until you use, let's see some love. Come on, Christian.
Final thoughts here. Overall, I'm really happy with how the gig went. I had brought a backup DI just in case this thing crapped out and left me high and dry, but I had no problems whatsoever. I do need to make some adjustments to some of the effects in my preset, and I had to make some EQ adjustments, but overall, I found that pretty easy to just hear things, say like, oh, okay, that needs to be adjusted, make some switches, and did the gig no problem. And honestly, I think I'm keen enough on this thing to keep using it. I might seem like the kind of player who uses a ton of effects, but the truth is, like, outside of 8 or 10 songs, I just need a solid, no-nonsense bass tone, and this delivered. Hearing back the recording that I got from the board, and also just the, camera audio, which is terrible, made me pretty confident in the preset that I built. I'm pretty happy with how the bass tone sounds. I was able to work around the wah, and I just ended up using the expression pedal, and that was just fine. I need a little more practice with that, but I absolutely cannot use the octaver. Remember how earlier in the video I said that I would not be using the effects loop? Well, I might have to actually use it and put an octave pedal that's actually good in there, and then I'm bringing an extra pedal, but it's still smaller and lighter than my like $1,500 pedal board that I've been bringing, and this is only $300, so that is a much safer thing to be bringing to these bar gigs. Another thing I tested over the weekend was the audio interface capabilities with my phone. I did a TikTok duet just for fun, and it was easy. Just plug and play, and it just worked. So in summary, I think the Matribox II Pro has potential, but maybe not quite there yet. I will say that it has fantastic hardware, a really thoughtful and well-designed interface, both physically and in software, a lot of really useful features that are well-designed, but I think the quality of some of the effects needs a little bit of work before I'm ready to call it pro. On the other hand though, it is extremely competitively priced, and for what you get, it's a damn good deal, and actually that deal is about to get better because Sonicake has told me that they're going to be running a $40 off sale starting today, the 25th, all the way until Christmas Day, December 25th. I don't think you should count on future software updates to fix its problems, so if you're okay with how it is in its current state, this thing is a very good deal, but I hope that they stick with it. This is a fantastic platform, and I think that through a few software updates, a few tweaks to some of the problematic effects, this thing could become my main gigging board. To be able to take something this cheap and this, frankly replaceable versus my, $1,500 pedal board to these bar gigs, that feels like a no-brainer. I think that for my purposes, with a few tweaks and improvements and software updates, this thing could become my new main gigging board, which for a curmudgeon like me who tends to stick with gear forever once I find something I like, is saying quite a lot. Huge thanks to Sonicake for sending this out. I was not paid for this review, except in them just sending out the pedal, and I had a lot of fun with it. I had pretty low expectations for it, but honestly, pretty impressed with it. For how little they sell this for, I don't think that this is going to, replace your Helix, but if you wanted something equivalent and didn't want to spend $1,000 on it, it's hard to beat this. This is pretty impressive for the price. So if you didn't get your fill out of this video, I'm going to be uploading a bunch more sound clips to my Patreon page. It's going to be free for anybody. You don't have to pay for it, but I would love if you would pitch me $1 once a month. That would be great. You can also become a channel membership here on YouTube to give me $1 once a month to see videos early, if that's more your thing. If you want to keep up to date with what I'm doing outside of YouTube on a more regular basis, best place to follow me is on Instagram. I do a lot with my stories there, and as I continue to use this for other gigs and other bands, that's probably where I'm going to update my thoughts as we go along. One last thing that I've been considering is doing a live stream with this. It would be interesting to get people's input in real time, and we mess with specific stuff. If you want to see, do the desktop software, which I have not messed around with hardly at all in this video. So yeah, leave me a comment if you want to do a live stream, maybe sometime next week, and yeah, I guess I'll see you there. That's all I've got to say about the Matribox II Pro for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next video. And P.S.